Dictionary.com defines uttermost as the most remote, the furthest. The country of Papua New Guinea fits this definition perfectly. PNG is almost exactly halfway around the world from the United States. It is located directly north of Australia on the eastern half of the island of New Guinea, the second largest island in the world. The country consists of mountains, jungles, swamplands, and many outlying islands. Travel in the country is mostly by air, since the landscape is so rugged and roads are few. There are about 560 airstrips, although only 21 are actually paved. According to the CIA World Factbook, PNG is one of the most rural countries in the world, and among the least explored. Yet Papua New Guinea is also one of the most culturally diverse countries on Earth. Some estimate that more than 1,000 different cultural groups exist in PNG, with over 850 indigenous languages, more languages than any other country. Many people live in what we would consider to be extreme poverty, with about 1/3 of the population living on less than $1.25 per day. People typically live in villages that rely on subsistence farming. They build houses out of wood, grass, and bamboo, and do not have electricity, plumbing, or modern conveniences, although the use of cell phones and radios is growing. Life expectancy in Papua New Guinea is 60 to 65 years. PNG is the nation in the Pacific region with the highest incidence of HIV and AIDS. However, malaria is the leading cause of illness and death. Many people look to witchcraft and sorcery to explain sicknesses and death, although some have attempted to mix the Bible with their traditional tribal beliefs. Ancestor and spirit worship holds a strong place in their hearts. Some people practiced headhunting and cannibalism as late as the mid-1900s. God is not limited by rugged mountains and gullied roads. He does not withdraw his presence from those unlike himself. Disease, poverty, and wickedness do not repel him. Because God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. He sent Christ to a place and people as far removed from the glories of heaven as one could get. And he commands us to follow Christ's example. Ye shall be witnesses unto me, unto the uttermost part of the earth. Long before the earth was formed, God had purposed to send a witness of himself to the remote island of Papua New Guinea. That part of the story begins on the other side of the world. Eric Duprey was born in Michigan and raised with strong Christian influences. Eric accepted Jesus as his Savior at the age of 4 with the help of his Sunday school teacher. The Lord specifically used Eric's time in a Christian high school to further strengthen his faith. During this time, he was also heavily involved in his local church, Grace Baptist Church of Waterford, Michigan. Through this church, Eric got his first taste of mission work. He spent several summers on church mission trips to Puerto Rico, Brazil, Spain, and Tanzania.
I am thankful for the opportunity I had to take several missions trips through my church while growing up. Seeing the needs of these ministries grew in me this desire to involve myself in missions work and invest my life that way. After high school, I enrolled in nursing school at Bob Jones University so that I could maybe prepare myself with tools that could be used in this type of ministry. I can think of no greater investment of my life, and I believe it's what God intends for me to do.
During his sophomore year, Eric became acquainted with Kara Wilcox. Kara had grown up in Mohawk, New York, where her father faithfully serves as a pastor of Emmanuel Bible Church. After a session of discipline when Kara was 4, she turned and asked her father how much longer she would have to wait to get saved. He told her that she could ask Jesus to save her right then, and they prayed together. Kara remembers being so excited that she ran right down the hall to tell her mother. Growing up in a small church allowed Kara the opportunity to serve in a variety of areas and to be exposed to many missionary families, both in her home and at church. She was homeschooled through 9th grade and then attended Dublin Christian Academy for the remainder of high school.
I do not remember one specific time of dedication to Christian service, but rather many. As I grew in grace and knowledge of Christ, I realized more and more that He was my Lord. I grew up involved in ministry as the child of a pastor, and I truly enjoyed the opportunities God gave me to serve. I remember going forward at different invitations, whether to lay some desire on God's altar in surrender, to dedicate myself to mission work if God led that way, or to ask forgiveness for some sinful failure. I believe that each time was a renewing of my desire to be dedicated to the Lord's service, however He saw fit.
In college, both Eric and Kara were involved in leadership in their individual societies and in the residence halls. They graduated from BJU in 2006, Eric with his nursing degree, and Kara with a degree in women's ministries and a speech minor. In December of 2006, they were married in Kara's home church in New York, and then moved to Wisconsin where they joined Lakeland Baptist Church and became involved in its ministries. 6 months after their wedding, they applied for a 2-year mission trip with Gospel Fellowship Association Mission to meet a need for a short-term medical missionary in Papua New Guinea.
This opportunity was exciting for a couple different reasons. It was exciting to use the medicine as an opportunity to help people physically and then share the gospel with them of Jesus Christ as the great physician. It was also exciting to work under a team of missionaries that had experience and learn from them about how to best communicate the gospel in this village. It was also exciting to have this experience with my new wife, who had never been overseas before. The Lord gave us a lot of ministry opportunities. We had the clinic outreach, obviously, and there was clinic preaching that went with that each time. There was also a church service on Sundays and Wednesdays. There was a Christian school that we could be involved in. There was village outreach in general. And just living in the village presented itself with daily opportunities to minister to people. And medicine was a great bridge to present the gospel.
Contrary to my husband, I had only ever been outside the United States one time, to Nova Scotia, Canada. Like Eric, I was excited for the opportunity to minister, but I was also fearful. Some of my concerns were, what if I get sick? How will I adapt to a totally different culture? And what will I do when faced with bugs and reptiles I'm not used to? In the first few months, I learned how to filter water, bleach my vegetables and produce, pressure cook my meat, and heat water for a bucket shower. There were some humorous moments, though, as I tried to adapt my American mindset to the Papua New Guinea culture, such as the day that I was working in the garden with some of the other ladies. Someone suddenly yelled, "Rat!" And of course, I ran as fast as I could in the other direction, only to stop and realize that all the other ladies were chasing the rat. In the midst of my mistakes, God gave me some very special friendships to encourage me. Julie befriended me almost immediately. She knew English fairly well, and that was a help with translating. Alice was our clinic coworker, and her sense of humor enabled me to laugh when at other times I might have been crying. Ruth was a quiet lady, but she ministered behind the scenes in allowing me to work in her garden with her. And Catherine was a faithful prayer warrior on Wednesday evenings. God knew I needed these friendships to get the focus off of myself and onto serving others.
After 10 months in PNG, the Dupreys moved to Greenville, South Carolina, so Eric could pursue further Bible training at Bob Jones University and Seminary in preparation for returning to PNG. He spent the next 3 years working on a master's degree in counseling, which focused on both doctrine and discipleship. During this time, he also worked full-time as a nurse in a nearby hospital. Kara worked part-time, and they were blessed with little Isabel in November 2011. They joined Trinity Bible Church, pastored by Dr. Greg Mazak, where they were involved in various ministries, and Eric completed a church internship. While Eric was completing school, another missionary family to PNG, the Richards, began ministry in Kagu. Additional workers are needed for this large village ministry, and God has equipped Eric and Kara for this task. In May of 2012, they were accepted as full-time missionaries with Gospel Fellowship Association mission. They desire to work alongside the Richard family among the growing ministries in the village of Kagu, PNG.
The national believers in Kagu are eager for deeper Bible training. Many believers cannot read or write, so training them in ministry will require starting at ground zero. A Bible Institute has already been established to equip national church leadership and church planters, and there is also a vision to begin a primary school for younger children. Lord willing, our main ministry will be teaching children in a primary school to read and write, medical evangelism through the village clinic, training leadership in a Bible Institute, and then planting churches in the surrounding villages through those we've trained in the Bible Institute.
Eric and Kara believe God intends for them to serve Him in the villages of Papua New Guinea. Their short-term ministry in PNG laid a solid foundation for learning the language, culture, ministry needs, and lifestyle of the country. Would you consider praying for and supporting them as they witness for Christ unto the uttermost parts of the earth?